No way. Of course they have one. There is a question that the PVZ community asks that to this day there isn't necessarily a real answer. It's one question that's pondered across all people that play and catch up with Plants vs Zombies. It's whether or not sunflowers should go in front of your attackers or whether or not your sunflowers should go back. Personally, I don't believe there is a set answer. There technically is, but I'll get to that in a little bit. What we're going to go over in this video are the pros, cons, and reasons for either argument. There's a lot of good points for either or, you'd be surprised. So, the problem with PVZ is that technically it's a really easy game. Typically, in standard vanilla, zombies come in fairly slow, around 15 to 20 seconds to be specific. So you have a lot of time on your hands to simply place the sunflowers in the back so you can concentrate on placing potato mines on the front lawns, because there's always barely any zombies in the beginning. Because putting your sunflowers so close in what I consider the starting round can be considered a little silly when zombies don't really ambush you enough to have to protect anything in the first place. What I mean by it being the starting round are those 20 seconds, maybe more, of the game being pretty slow pace. So you don't have to concentrate so much on protecting attack plans where there's nothing really to protect. Zombies are way too easy and slow. Yes, typically people place sunflowers on the front, so later in the game you can stick to putting attackers in the back. I'll elaborate more on this in the next segment, but most of the time, again, you don't have to worry about zombies eating your plants in the first game, because the first game isn't meant to be that kind of game that's intense enough to have to desperately use sunflowers to stall zombies. And I believe it's also situational. Starting with nighttime for two reasons. Think about it like this. If you need a low-cost, cheap sunflower to stall zombies, why not just use Puffshroom in favor? He's 0 sun cost and has the same recharge time, so might as well keep the sunflowers and attackers jumping up in the back, while you can use Puffshrooms in front to protect both. This is again if you really need to, so there you go, there's a better alternative than using the sunflowers. I believe you simply can't lose sunshrooms. Sunshrooms, in my opinion, are much more valuable than sunflowers. Let's say you grew a sunshroom to its highest size, and that takes a while, 2 minutes to be exact. So it will be a waste of time if you grow it to the highest and you lose that said sunshroom because it's near the front, which, you know, it's risky. What's the point? I believe this could apply to twin sunflowers as well. Twin sunflowers are more valuable as they cost 150 sun. I don't think it's a good idea to keep twin sunflowers in front in longer levels like survival to lessen that risk. But here's the problem. This is more of an argument that sunflowers should be placed on the front, not sunshrooms or twin sunflowers even. Certain plants are best to put close range rather than back. For example, Fume Shroom and Starfruit. Fume Shroom only has a range of 4 tiles, so you cannot just put them in the back. Same with a Starfruit, which shoots close range 5 directional stars, so putting him in the back isn't really ideal either. But again, this is specifically just 2 plants. 2 plants that aren't even that good or useful compared to the many long range ones. Except for Gloomshroom. Gloomshroom is one of the best plants in the first game, but his range is limited to 3x3. So Gloomshroom is a type that does need close range, therefore you can't have sunflowers in the way, so that's another situation where you could place them in the back. But you don't really use Gloomshroom unless it's for survival mode, and in that case you'd also just be using twin sunflowers anyway, so again, still a very specific situational example. Then the next case, I call it ethics versus efficiency. Sure, the game is a war, so plants will die no matter what in this said zombie war. But what if the pea shooter technically was assumed a knight, while the sunflower is a princess? Shouldn't it be the pea shooter's job to protect her? Protect those who cannot protect themselves. It's almost rewarding that you were able to defend your sunflowers the entire level. The innocent plants that can't do anything but increase your summer economy. It feels wrong putting them in such a vulnerable position. Think about it. But then you realize these are just digital plants that don't have actual feelings, so like, that kind of ruins the argument, but it's still one nonetheless. Symmetry is law. It's symmetrically satisfying to place them in the back. And we're all just so used to placing down the sunflowers on here because the game doesn't really give you a rule set on where to put them in the first place. That's just how the game works. You have free will, and it was just unanimously agreed upon to place plants that way where it wasn't really questioned. I know the argument that's just the way it is isn't exactly the best argument, but it's true, it's just the way it was. As a child, it was almost instinctive to do it. Just check out a lot of casual player gameplay. It was just the way it was. and speedrunning, it's supposedly less efficient to put pea shooters in the back, because of the travel speed of the pea. You'll actually notice if you look at some any % PvZ speedruns, that most of said speedruns put pea shooters forward rather than back, because the closer the pea shooter is, the faster the pea will reach that zombie. If it's too far away, technically the pea will take a second or two longer to hit a zombie. So in that case, there is a whole category of PvZ players, apart from casual ones, that do place the sunflowers in the back. I mean, that's pretty intriguing, no? In conclusion, I do believe the best argument is the fact that the first game is easy. There's very rarely a situation where the first game's vanilla version ever requires you to have to defend yourself using sunflowers. The game is slow paced, so you don't have to worry about losing your attack plans. But now we can progress to... Let's start with the most obvious argument I mentioned in the beginning, that losing sunflowers is way cheaper and more efficient than losing important plants like Gatling peas or winter melons. But like I said before, this argument does fall apart when there's not much of a risk of losing these said plants in the first place when the game is easy. But PVZ 1 isn't the only PVZ game. That's where we talk about Plants vs Zombies 2. Plants vs Zombies 2 is completely different from the first game for various reasons. First of all, the game is not so slow paced. One PVZ 1 level takes 3 to 5 minutes, maybe even more, while a level in the second game can take so little as 1 to 3 minutes. That's a large decrease of time within each level. The second game was created to be a mobile game, so the creators wanted to adapt fast-paced phone games and put it into PVZ. You can argue this was a bad idea, as PVZ should not be that type of game, but anyway. Second of all, there's also a leap in difficulty now that it doesn't take its time. This means that you can lose plants way easier now that zombies are ambushing you more. This also means that you should protect your attack plants and try your best not to lose them. In conclusion, use your sunflowers in front. It's viable and there's no loss when it's really easy to get sun now because there's a 25 sun increase in this game. There's more of an argument as well with the fact that there are zombies solely made to destroy plants in one hit that aren't just gargantuars, like explorer zombies, burrow zombies, pianoist zombies, surfer zombies, or MC zombies. They one-shot any plant in their way. So yeah, that risk of losing plants is so much higher now. Why would you put your attack plants at risk and open to die almost immediately when it's so easy to collect sun? I do believe that sunshrooms and twin sunflowers are still crucial and you shouldn't put them in front like I said about the first game. Twin sunflowers are still 125 sun, even if it's easier to collect sun, the recharge time continues to be slow, and some shrooms will still take their time to grow. They're even more essential now that they can actually grow up to a third stage, rather than just 2, where it'll produce 75 sun, so you don't want to be losing those still. I do believe that in terms of the other sun producing plants like primal sunflower could also be put on the front. It's only 25 sun more than sunflower and it shouldn't be so hard to replace them. A moonflower on the other hand, technically it's best you put an attack plant in front of it as it generates a 3x3 aura field, so it's best to use both the front and back shadow tiles. But it's not like many people use the moonflower compared to primal sunflowers anyway. No offense to moonflower or even if the implementation of shadow plants are interesting in my opinion, but that's a topic for another video. And there are other ways to power shadow plants, Gloomvine being the best personally. So if you're going to put Shinevine on top of your sun producing plants, whether it's a basic sunflower, a primal one, I believe there's not really a set answer for that, as putting them behind your attack plants would be smart since Shinevine is important and does cost more sun, but if you place Shinevines in front of your attack plants, they can technically stall zombies, as when they're approached by one, they'll perform a stunning attack every 2 seconds, which also drops extra sun. Around 5. In conclusion, I think it's best to put sunflowers or primal sunflowers in front when you're playing PVZ 2 due to sun being easier to retrieve anyway in this game, with the 25 sun addition in plants like Goldbloom or Solar Sage existing, or the increased difficulty and pace in this game compared to the first. Now let's talk about the next game. The next where honestly you should put sunflowers in front as well. PVZ 3 Evolved. PVZ 3 Evolved is just like PVZ 2, if not worse, because PVZ 2 still does slowly bring in zombies, and then after a small 5 or 7 seconds is when the zombies begin to come in. PVZ 3 does not have that small mercy, they just shove them all immediately. Mostly imps and basic zombies, so it isn't the worst thing in the world. I will admit that PVZ 3 at this point isn't dog crap as it was before. I'd actually give it a solid 5 out of 10, but zombies are way more aggressive in this game compared to the second, so of course you're gonna want to put your sunflowers in front of your plants, especially if you have tier 3 attack plants. It's obviously harder to fuse them, meaning they're more valuable compared to other plants in other games, that they take a lot more effort than just simply placing them down. And similar to PVZ 2, there are zombies that can easily target your plants far better than zombies from the first game can, like the batter zombie or the landscaper zombie. Since there are exceptions for PVZ 2 though, there are exceptions for PVZ 3 as well, with Sun Tower being that exception. So you usually get Sun Tower a few minutes or so through time in a level, so at that point, I recommend just placing defense plants in front of those sun producers as well. It's still pretty easy to retrieve sun in this game, so trust me, it shouldn't be too much of a problem to sacrifice even twin sunflowers in this game. They technically only cost 2 sunflowers now, so it isn't that difficult with the 50 sun meta continuing to stay in this game and PVZ 2. So yeah, PVZ 3 Evolved most definitely is another example of placing your sun producers in front of your attack plants because attack plants are just much more viable. The game is just as fast, if not faster than PVZ 2, and zombies can be difficult. Now, I believe there's another huge example of sunflowers having to be placed in front. An example that involves the first game, but not the vanilla version. PVZ 1 has a lot of difficult mods. Mods that are meant to amp up the first game's difficulty because it was too easy for some people. Typically in these mods though, with this difficulty comes zombie spam, like PVZ Brutal Mode for example. I do have a lot of problems with some of these mods. They're usually not really that creative and it's just random BS go, but I don't know what to expect from mods that are meant to be incredibly challenging. Certain mods like 40 Crumbs can even strengthen zombies or even create new ones rather than just amplifying how much they spawn. Because of this difficulty spike, I feel like it's only natural to keep your sunflowers in front to protect your attackers no matter what. It's smart too, as you can overrun the long with sunflowers without limitation. If you place sunflowers on the back, you are only restricted to around 2 lanes of sunflowers, because more would just place the attack plants on closer proximity, but if you plant these sunflowers forward, place as many as you want. You aren't confined, so you have a lot more sun supply, making it easier to retrieve plants. Then the final argument. The creator of the Plants vs Zombies franchise, the father of PVZ, George Fan, says so himself. I say sunflowers go in the 3rd column and oftentimes double up to go in the 4th column as well. If the sunflower's in the 1st column and a zombie eats a pea shooter in front of it, the whole row goes down, whereas if they're swapped, you can sometimes salvage the row. There it is. It's not like we can argue against the father of PVZ, can we? It's a good point he's making after all. There's no argument about that. It's a little clear that sunflowers being in front has more of an argument compared to sunflowers being in the back. But honestly, it does not matter. I think that's really the conclusion of it all. But if you really do want an objectified answer, I would say just place the sunflowers in the front, as not only does it save your attack plants from certain difficult situations, but it's just mutually agreed upon by the creator of PVZ and other experienced players. But realistically, it really does not matter. Do what you like. The video was just a fun analysis, as I think the discussion is really interesting and really shows how much variation this game has. It really does leave it up to user interpretation. There's a reason why the tutorial of this game is so simplified. There's no set path. You decide that path. But anyway, that's about it guys. See ya.